Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another edition of the Dirty O and IDP Underdogs. As always, I am the Doc here and joined by the IDP Godfather, the IDP tipster himself, Mr. Gary Van Dyke. And together we are the Underdogs. As always, we are sniffing out that value that the books are laying out here. And did you think just because the NFL is taking a week off that we're taking a week off? Absolutely not. There are bets out there. There is money to be made. So yes, we of course are doing an episode here. A little bit of a special edition here. We're going to actually do an underdog fantasy themed episode today. So we're going to be going all through. We're going to give each 5 underdog pick'ems that, 5 for offense, 5 for defense, and we're going to come together as always and give our best plays for a juicy pick'em at the end. So we got a lot of fun in store here. And look, it's the big one. It is the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 58, Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers going down in Las Vegas. So we're pulling out all the stops. We're going to go ahead, and I think, as health professional myself, whenever I look at a game, the first thing I look to is an injury report. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys. Obviously, we're recording this Wednesday night, so this is an early injury report, right? So we're about a week and a half from the game, but we got a good idea about some injury situations. So I want to go ahead and share that for you. Also made a video on this over on my social on X, TikTok, at SGPN Football Doc. Same username there, so you can go ahead and check those out. But for your Kansas City Chiefs, coming up a little bit more banged up than the 49ers. You've got defensive end Charles Omenihu with a torn ACL and out for the season. So for those who are not aware, Omenihu, he is not technically a starter, but he's been getting a lot of burn recently, especially these past, after these Chiefs has made this run here. He is the guy who was responsible for the strip sack on Lamar Jackson last week. He's been on a tear, especially as an edge rusher coming off the edge. He's going to be out. The Chiefs are also missing Derek Nottie. He was put on the IR. He got banged up in the Miami game, so he's going to be out. So that D-line's coming in a little bit weaker than they usually are. On the offensive side of the ball there, keeping it in the trenches, all-pro left guard Joe Thuney dealing with a pec injury. Initially, it was after an MRI. They thought it was just going to be a strain, not too big of a deal. Now there's a debate on whether it's a full tear or a strain. That tells me it's likely more of a grade 2, which is more of a moderate strain. So really any strain just means micro tear of the muscle. So there is some significant damage there. That's typically more of like a 4 to 6 week injury. So I would call Joe Thuney doubtful. He seems like a long shot at this point to go. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he plays, but it's more than likely that he does not suit up. Now, they do have a pretty solid backup in Allegretti. He filled in nicely, so we'll see there. But anytime you're missing an all-pro, as in one of the best in the league, that's a big deal. And then to round it out really for the Chiefs, you got linebacker Willie Gay dealing with some neck spasms. He's been dealing with this the past couple of weeks since the playoffs, really since the Miami game. He had a real shot to play last week, but he's dealing neck spasms. It's kind of like hit or miss, right? So they tightened up on him the day of game day, so he wasn't able to go. He wasn't active. With this 2 weeks off, I fully expect him to be able to give it a go there. That'll be a boost for that defense. On the San Francisco side, they're coming in a lot healthier. They've got minimal injuries. Deebo Samuel, we all saw him get knocked out of the Packers game in the divisional round. He obviously played the whole game in the conference championship, but he was a little bit beat up. You saw him come off the field kind of rubbing that shoulder a little bit sometimes. So, he was not 100%. I expect him to be closer to 100%. I don't think he's going to be fully there, but I'm not sure how much that matters. It seems like an AC joint injury, something guys play through anyway, so he should be pretty much good to go. If he takes a decent shot to the shoulder, could be a little bit of an issue, but overall, you want to say about 90 to 100% there for Deebo. And the only other guy is cornerback Ambry Thomas. Rolled his ankle later in the game last week, did not return. Seems to be like he was okay. Kind of want to look at the injury reports here. Again, it's so early. We haven't gotten a good read. I would expect these teams probably aren't going to practice much this week. Typical kind of, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. That's when we'll really get a read on this. But that's your early injury report. So the 49ers are coming in a bit healthier into this big matchup here. All right, Gary, let's talk about what are we thinking for the Super Bowl? How do you see this playing out?
Personally, I'm finding it really hard just to bet against Mahomes and Kelce. So, Travis Kelce. So I've kind of rolled with them the last couple of games. I mean, just that defense too. They stood up pretty big last week. That is unfortunate. They're going to be down due uh, this game, but I still think that they have some nice depth and they have some nice pieces across the front. So, oh man, they work as a tandem. I still just have this gut feeling, man. I'm not betting against Mahomes. Not in this, he's been here, he's done that. He's Tom Brady now.
Hey man, brother, I'm right there with you, right? No, so this game right now, again, it opened up at 2.5. 49ers -2.5. It kind of got bet down to close to a pick 'em there. Now it's creeping back up. I think I'm seeing the number right now. It's 49ers -2, -2.5, depending where you're looking. Yeah, it's pretty close, and I think the spread, it tells you it's going to be a close game, right? But I'm right there with you. At the end of the day, betting against Patrick Mahomes as a dog in the playoffs has just not been profitable. Right. And I think here's kind of my read on it. I think it all boils down to, will Kyle Shanahan commit to the run game? This is something he's had trouble when doing in the past. You can run on this Chiefs defense. We saw Buffalo go for 182. I don't know why on earth the Ravens did not do what got them there and ran the ball right down their throats. I'm still kind of perplexed about that. I know Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator. Shout out to him, getting my Giants a couple Super Bowls there. But I think it's all going to come down to if Kyle Shanahan can commit to the run. I think in order for the 49ers to win this game, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel need to have 30-plus touches together combined. You got to run the rock right at them. This Chiefs secondary is the real deal. I think they're one of the best in the NFL, if not the best in that secondary group, including the linebackers in Bolton and Gay and Tranquil as far as how they cover. So I think this is a situation where, will the 49ers commit to the run game and not rely on Brock Purdy? I do not listen. I'm not one of those people that thinks Brock Purdy is trash, thinks that he's this and that, but he's a 7-pound round pick for a reason. I don't think he's Superman. If you are going into this game and having Brock Purdy throw 35, 40 times, I think your chances are slim to none. I do not think that Brock Purdy can consistently beat this Kansas City Chiefs pass defense. And if you're going to make it where it's Purdy versus Mahomes, I'm going to take Mahomes 100 out of 100 times. It's in a dome. I think, that 49ers defense, the weakness is their secondary. I think Mahomes is going to have his way. So, it's got a really good situation here. We got a really good matchup. I think on paper, you can convince yourself that the 49ers have the better roster, but I just do not trust Kyle Shanahan to commit to the run. And I'm taking Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, and Andy Reid with extra time to game plan over this 49ers team. All right. So before we get into the picks and the fun, let's tell you about one of our sponsors here. Now, if you've been on the fantasy sphere in the Twitter X world, you've probably seen some fantasy football drama recently. A lot of that flooding the timelines about paying out your league and stuff like that. Hey, I won. Why would my payout be here? Well, let me tell you something you can always rely on, and that's our friends over at Trophy Smack. They've got everything you need to bring your fantasy league to that next level. So, let's say that, hey, I don't want to have to worry about, is everyone paying me this or that? How about we present the championship trophy at the Super Bowl to the league winner? Let's not forget what fantasy football is all about. Coming together, enjoying football, trying to get this pick, a little bit of competitive flavor. But at the end of the day, we're all friends here. And Trophy Smack does a great job of displaying that there. They've got championship trophies. They got rings. They got wall art. They've even got last place gifts. Let's say, hey, I forgot to make a last place. We forgot to make a last place agreement. Well, you know what? You got to wear this trophy. You got to wear this proud ring a whole time because you messed up and you came in last. Anything you want, they could have. Listen, Trophy Smack. We're going to make the deal a little bit sweeter here. We're not just talking about them blowing smoke here. If you use the code IDP guys at checkout, you will get a free championship ring with the purchase of any belt over on trophysmack.com. Again, that is code IDP guys, all one word, over at trophysmack.com, and get yourself a free ring there. All right, Gary, we've made them wait long enough. let's get into our picks here. The first pick on the underdogs for the defensive side of the ball. What are we rolling with?
Let's go with the Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed for a higher 4.5 total tackles. That's assisted in solos. I mean, basically, he's been a key cog to the whole defensive unit. If they make adjustments, they use him and Justin Reed and Bolton to do these adjustments. Now, I want to point out that I believe since Willie Gay was out last week, and we've seen so much of True Tranquil, which had a killer game last week, with just 70% of the snaps, 69%, something like that. I think that we did see a shift in how they approach the game in Baltimore, whether the types of games that they have for the last couple of weeks. Of course, like you just mentioned, we're going to be in the dome now. But I have no problems thinking that he is their overall best graded player in the secondary. I mean, in coverage and run support, he's a cornerback playing safety. He's covering the slot. He's everywhere it needs to be there. He was a good producer last week, even in that scenario. And even when we hit on him last week using him, that's why I keep going back to him. He hasn't let us down. He still managed with that game script with the Baltimore to be one of the top 3 or 4 producers on that defense in production. So also thinking about the situation where I think that, the Chiefs are going to put the 49ers in some kind of position somewhere where they're going to have to pass the ball, and they're going to have to go a little bit deeper. I don't know about this run game either.
Yeah. No, I like it. And I mean, hey, L'Jarius Sneed made the play of the game there, punching that ball at the goal line out from Zay Flowers, causing that fumble. Yes, that does count as a tackle, right? Like, I mean, that was a hell of a play, right? He's been one of the best cornerbacks in the entire NFL this season. So I love starting us off with a nice L'Jarius Sneed higher than 4.5 total tackles there. All right, we're bumping it back over to the offensive side of the ball here. I'm going to go ahead and sticking with what Gary was saying, right? We talked about, we both like the Chiefs in this matchup, and we have a situation where I think that the Chiefs are going to get up. They're going to have a lead. And when that happens, Brock Purdy has been seen to press a little bit, right? So the 49ers have not played without a lead. They've not played from behind a lot this season. We've seen it happen in the playoffs recently where they have to rely on Purdy in the gun and in that run game. So I'm going with 49ers Brock Purdy higher than a half interception. And, again, I think they're going to have to press a little bit. I think he's going to make some very dangerous throws. This has kind of been his MO, right? It's been about, can the defense convert on these interceptable passes? Yes, Brock Purdy does make some good throws. There's no denying that. But he also makes some very egregious throws, some throws that you're just like, what are you doing? We saw it last week. Yeah, I know he had a little bit of pressure. Again, that interior offensive line for the 49ers is a little bit of their weak spot there. Obviously, you have Trent Williams as an anchor as left tackle, but I like the Chiefs and Chris Jones to get some pressure up the middle, just like we saw last week. Aleem McNeil coming up the middle. He affected that throwing lane. That duck went right to Malcolm Rodriguez there, linebacker for the Lions. The Chiefs have also had an interception in 2 out of 3 playoff games. The only one that they did not was in the Miami game where there wasn't a lot of throwing the ball due to the weather conditions. Again, this is a dome. I like the Chiefs to be ahead. I like for Brock Purdy to have to start pressing. I mean, let's be honest. This dude just had, at the end of the season, regular season, he had a 4 interception game. You're telling me that you're going against one of the best secondaries, one of the best pass defenses in the league? I love his higher than a half interception there for Brock Purdy. All right, what do we got on the defensive side of ball? Plate number 2.
We'll slow to the draw here. Hopefully I'll say this right. Let's go with the 49ers, Ji'Ayir Brown.
Yep.
Let's see, higher than 6 total tackles. This kid came in for Huafunga and played for nearly the entire season, if not all the season. He was actually really graded well at the beginning of the season and was just standing out, making killer plays. I believe it was also during a transaction that maybe Greenlaw or Warner might have been injured, but either way, he's not quite that level now. They have kind of picked on him and found his faults, and I think it actually helps out in this situation when the Chiefs are going to be looking at the secondary of the 49ers. If there's a weakness, I think it's got to be there. The defensive line is stout. Now the defensive line didn't show out versus the Lions last week, but Bosa did get 2 sacks. Uh, the, I think that Brown won't have any trouble covering, getting 7+ or more. And I'm reflecting a little bit on the end season numbers, which the 49ers didn't allow a huge amount of production to the safety position. But what they did was it was way higher than what they did to the cornerback position. So what that tells me, and knowing what the Chiefs are going to come out and do, I don't think they're going to come out and run the ball quite like they have been. I think we're going to see some passing game here. I think Brown is going to get targeted along with he's good in run support. So he's going to clear the 6 total tackles. No
No,
problem.
I love it. I love it when it wasn't even part of the plan, but how it comes together here. Because yeah, like you're talking about, one of the weaknesses of this defense is the secondary, especially the safeties. Again, Hofunga was likely going to be a Pro Bowler. He's tore his ACL out for the season. In steps a rookie, Ji'Ayir Brown. You got vet Tashawn Gibson. Not really a strong point of this team. So I think the Chiefs are going to attack the middle of the field, allow opportunities for Brown to make some tackles. And I'm sticking with that. Give me Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 receiving yards. He is 3 for 3 to this number in the playoffs so far. It's the postseason. You got to trust the guys you trust. Mahomes clearly trusts Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice much more than anyone else right now. This is a situation where Travis Kelce is going to turn it on. It's the Super Bowl. I mean, we just saw, again, the tight end position for the 49ers. They just let up. Laporta just had 97 yards. He almost had 100 yards in the game. He was the leading receiver for this game against the 49ers defense just last week. Laporta is a great prospect. I do not think that Goff and Laporta have the same chemistry that Kelce and Mahomes do. I love Kelce to get over this number here. Again, those safeties, if I'm a 49ers fan, the secondary, specifically those safeties, whether it's Tashawn Gibson, Ji'Ayir Brown, or Logan Ryan, whenever they decide to put him in, that worries me. Who's going to cover Travis Kelce? I understand Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw are pretty good. They're good linebackers. I mean, they're great linebackers, right? But they're not covering Travis Kelce one-on-one. I love for Mahomes to look for him early and often. Give me Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 receiving yards. All right, back to the defensive side of the ball here. Pick number 3. What do we got?
Which makes perfect sense to think that the 49ers, Fred Warner, will go higher than 8.5 total tackles. He's just coming off of 13 versus Detroit. He had, 7 versus Green Bay in the first playoff game. But during the season, the last 6 games, he was averaging anywhere from 8 to 9. Again, we're talking about what should be the Chiefs throwing the ball a lot. I like Fred Warner from sideline to sideline. So instead of taking his solos, I'm going to go ahead and go with his higher at 8.5 total tackles, and just figure this dude's going to be busy, man. I think that the Chiefs got multiple attacks, and they're going to use them. And either way, the Pro Bowler stud is going to be in the middle of it.
No, I love that. And yeah, so for those of you who have not experienced like betting, obviously we're doing Underdog here, like on the defensive side of the ball. What an absolutely exhilarating sweat. First of all, it keeps you engaged when both teams are on offense, right? You get to be engaged with everything, all 22. But Fred Warner, the way he plays football is absolutely beautiful, right? If you're teaching a young linebacker, a young kid how to play football, Gary talked about it. Sideline to sideline, he will stick his nose wherever he needs to stick his nose in. The guy is just one of the phenomenal talents of the NFL. So, I mean, I'm going to be riding this purely. Obviously, it's a great bet. I love Warner to be active early and often. I think the Chiefs are going to attack the middle of the field as well. But man,
Another,
Fred Warner plays the game the right way.
yeah, he does. And another thing I'm leaning on here, man, since, kind of all bets are off, we've made it to the playoffs. Things went a different way during the playoffs than a lot expected, especially considering all the outdoor weather games and such being in Buffalo and in Baltimore. But I'm looking at these guys and their consistency from the season, who they've been as a whole through the year. So, I mean, there's only so much to pick from in underdogs when it comes to defensive players to begin with. So I like these guys, including Ji'Ayir Brown, even though he was only in there for probably 90% of the season. He showed enough to know that you can be confident in their consistency, and they should come to the surface in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I like it, right? You just talked about it. It's a big game. Trust your studs. Trust your studs. All
Yep.
right. So, as we just talked about trusting your studs, I'm going to give you a little bit of a spicy play here. A little bit of a guy who is probably not one of the guys you think about when you think of the Kansas City Chiefs here. I'm going to go MVS. That's Chiefs wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling higher than 39.5 rush and receiving yards at a picante 2.5x. Now, for those unfamiliar with Underdog Fantasy, those plays, they have a couple plays where, they're usually going to be plus odds at the books, a little bit, don't happen as often, a little bit riskier. The payout will increase, right? So for this one, you get 2.5x. It is a spicy play. I think his normal line is right around 20 yards. So I think it's just doubling his normal line for essentially plus 250 here. This is a situation where MVS is the big play wide receiver. He is the big shot guy, right? So he had 38 last week. So he hit just under this number last week, but he had 62 against the Bills. We're in a dome. So take weather kind of out of the equation, right? It allows for an opportunity for big plays, shots down the field. There's going to be no wind that's going to be affecting these balls. You're also dealing with Patrick Mahomes, one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. And again, I've talked about it at length. The 49ers secondary is the clear weakness of that team, especially the safety position. 40 yards for Valdes-Scantling is no more than 2 catches. He is the big play wide receiver. This could happen in one deep shot. I mean, we saw it. They tried to get Jameson Williams loose last week. They had a couple opportunities against this 49ers defense, whether it's Ji'Ayir Brown, Logan Ryan, Tashawn Gibson. I don't think any of these guys can run with MVS. And he's actually been pretty clutch. I think when people think about MVS, you think about a speedy guy, almost like a Ted Ginn Jr., who will fly down the field, but it's about a 50-50 shot whether he catches the ball. I mean, in that Bills game, he made 2 contested catches, and one of them against Taron Johnson, who is one of the best slot corners in the league. And last week, he closed the game out. Patrick Mahomes went to him with the game on the line and just threw it up there and said, "Go get it, MVS." And he delivered. I think that carries over to the Super Bowl. Give me MVS higher than 39.5 rush receiving yards at 2.5x. Also a situation where there's only so many guys that the Chiefs trust on this offense. If they're going to run one of these end arounds, Mecole Hardman's already shown that he can fumble the ball. Kadarius Toney, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him. Will Sky Moore play? Who knows? So I think the Chiefs love these little gadget plays. Why not send the flyer Valdes-Scantling down on a rush if you're going to do an end around or something like that. So also gives us a good time to talk about, again, this is a spicy play. So, one of those situations where not as likely to hit. I think it's going to hit, but again, good time to remind you good folks, if you're spending your good hard money, make sure that you are gambling responsibly here. And if you got any gambling problems, make sure you call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Gary, let's go ahead and back to the defensive side of the ball. Pick number 4.
With the idea that I think that the Chiefs will control the clock, I'm going to go with Chiefs. Nick Bolton Higher, 8.5 total tackles, having a little bounce back game after kind of a low production game. I think he only had like 6 combined, 7 combined. It was a little on the slower end for a normal game. Of course, we had Drew Tranquil come in and see more snaps than probably he would have if Willie Gay had been active, which I guess he's still questionable. So, but there's one thing that I'm confident in. I'm not so sure it'll be solos or it's going to be as assisted tackles, but Nick Bolton, same situation. Maybe he's not Fred Warner, but the dude is a really good inside linebacker, and he has that side to sideline speed too. I mean, that's what he does. He gets the majority of the snaps, no matter what kind of fooling around they do with the snaps amongst any of those players on the defense. It doesn't affect how much Nick Bolton is on that field. So in a situation where I think that he's good up in the box for tackling or in coverage, I mean, I'm going to stick with his little streak that he had going right before the playoffs, which was he was averaging 12 tackles, combined tackles a game.
Yeah, 12.
It just kind of hit a wall this last playoff. Yeah, the 3 previous games. So in those games, he had 36 tackles. So yeah, I'll go with Nick Bolton here on the higher.
No, I love it. Yeah, you talked about, hey, he might not be Fred Warner yet because he hasn't had the longevity that Fred Warner's had to produce. But again, a guy who just plays the game right. He flies around the field, man. Nick Bolton. So they asked Steve Spagnuolo in an interview. They said, "Who is the one guy on this defense that And I'm paraphrasing here. Who's the one guy that you can't be without? Who's the one guy who is the most integral to this defense?" And the answer was Nick Bolton. We saw him in last year's Super Bowl. He was the one, for those who don't remember, who got the fumble from Jalen Hurts and ran it back for a touchdown. He's been in these big spots before. Yes, he's a young player, but he was part of that Super Bowl win last year. I absolutely love this play. I think he's going to step up just like Fred Warner will. This is it. This is the Super Bowl. This is what you wait your whole life to get into. I think Nick Bolton, again, I think the 49ers need to run the ball to be successful. Whether it's Deebo, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, that's right up there with an inside linebacker position. George Kittle, a huge part of the team, middle of the field. That is Nick Bolton's area. I think they're going to attack that because they need to attack that, and Nick Bolton's going to meet them with full force. Love that there. All right, so we're going back to the Dirty O offensive side of the ball here. Pick number 4. I've been giving out a lot of Chiefs. I'm going to give some love, some flowers to the 49ers. So they're in the Super Bowl. They're obviously one of the best teams in the league, and they've got a couple of the best players in the league. And one of those is 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Give me his higher than 13.5 rushing yards. Yes, I know Deebo only went 3 carries for 7 yards on the ground last week, and he put up a decent amount of numbers through the air. He was the leading wide receiver for the 49ers. Again, in order to be successful against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, you need to run the ball. You need to run it right at them. You need to run it at their throat. I talked about it at the top of the show. They have 2 pretty big defensive line injuries, and they've already shown they're more susceptible on the ground than through the air. I think where Deebo needs to get involved is in the running game, whether it's in the backfield, whether it's an end around, whether it's, a screen behind the line of scrimmage, behind Purdy, so it counts as a rush. I love the higher than 13.5 rushing yards. I think they're going to need to attack that rush defense for the Chiefs. I think Deebo is going to be involved heavily in the game plan. You saw how different this team looked when he went out against the Packers. Shanahan even said that he had to throw away half of his playbook because Deebo was not in the lineup. They love Deebo Samuel, especially in the big spots here. I think they're going to lean on him. Again, if they want to be successful, I think you need a lot of CMC and a lot of Deebo here. I think Deebo can get this in, 3, 2, 1 carry. He's got obviously the big playability. Give me Deebo Samuel higher than 13.5 rushing yards. All right, pick number 5 for the defense. What are you wrapping us up with here, Gary?
Well, if I'm doing anything, I'm going to anchor it with, probably the most talented guy when you break it down, really seriously breaking it down, the most talented guy left in the playoffs, as far as I'm concerned. Definitely off the edge. Went with him last week. He pulled it off against Detroit and got two of them, sacks. We're going to ride that with going with the 49ers. Nick Bosa higher than half a sack. It's more like you don't bet against Bosa. He's going to produce no matter what when he gets in there. And I know he had a little stretch right before the playoffs, before he got those two sacks last week. He didn't have a bunch of sacks in a row, but what he does have is tackles for loss in those situations. He's a pressure master. All right. He had a week's vacation. He just got a little bit warmed up last week against the Lions. And I'm going to anchor it with him and finish this off with thinking that he ain't going to have a problem. He'll probably come out with more than a sack. I mean, I know it is the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't necessarily giving away sacks. All right. But this is Nick Bosa. So if you got a counterpart to Mahomes, it is him.
Yeah.
When it comes to the level of talent on each side of the ball. And
no, I like it.
There's no reason not to think that he can't break free and catch Mahomes on the run or slip into one. They got a stout defensive line there in San Fran.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, the Chiefs defensive line or offensive line, is good, but they're by no means great. They're not the best part of that offense, right? They've, whether it's been penalties on the tackles or, letting up some sacks. Patrick Mahomes has walked himself into some sacks. You saw it just last week with Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil there. So it's a situation where, it's Nick Bosa. Like you said, he is the alpha dog. It is the Super Bowl. Again, bet on your studs there. I like that. All right. Fifth and final play for the offensive side, the dirty O side. Again, every time I say bet on your studs, I'm going to give you someone who is by definition not one of the alpha dogs on this offense. But give me Chiefs, tight end number 2, Noah Gray, higher than 2.5 targets. The Chiefs have, they took a while to figure it out, right? We all saw kind of throughout the course of the season, starting with that Thursday night game against Detroit. Again, part of that loss, a lot of that loss, I think falls on Kadarius Toney's hands or his lack thereof, for a better term. But they took some time to figure out what they want to do. Lately, they have realized, listen, we don't have 3 or 4 wide receivers that we can trust. It's Rashee Rice, it's Travis Kelce, it's a little bit of MVS, it's a little bit of Watson. Whether due to injuries or just trust issues, there's not a lot of other wide receivers who are going to be getting the ball. They have been running a lot of 2 tight end personnel, a lot of 12 personnel, and Noah Gray has been on the field. He is their tight end number 2. That has kind of been their solution. They've been leaning more on the running game this year. They've been leaning more on the play action, hitting the tight ends. Obviously, I talked about how much I like Kelce and how much I like Kelce. There's, the 49ers know about Travis Kelce. They are game planning for Travis Kelce. There's going to be a lot of eyes on Travis Kelce. This opens up opportunities for a guy like Noah Gray. Again, they do not trust hit their wide receivers to the point that in a typical Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid offense, I think Gray is kind of clearly their number 4 target there. I think, again, it's kind of, you got Rashee Rice, you got Travis Kelce, you kind of got MVS, and then I think it's Noah Gray right up there. He's 4th in targets on the team in the playoffs right now. In the past 6 weeks, he has gone over this 2.5 targets 5 of the 6 times. So I think this is a situation where Noah Gray is going to be on the field a lot. They're going to be throwing the ball some, whether it's play action or just out of the gun. I like Noah Gray to get some targets. Give me Noah Gray, Chiefs tight end number 2, higher than 2.5 targets. All right, folks. So a quick recap. We've given out 5 defensive, 5 offensive plays over on Underdog that we think are absolute smash spots that we love this week. I'm going to do a quick recap, and we're going to finish it off with a nice, juicy, our 4 best plays in a beautiful, beautiful pick 'em there. All right, so on the defensive side of the ball, we've got Chiefs cornerback L'Jarius Sneed higher than 4.5 total tackles. We've got 49ers safety Ji'Ayir Brown higher than 6 total tackles. 49ers linebacker Fred Warner higher than 8.5 total tackles. Chiefs linebacker Nick Bolton higher than 8.5 total tackles. And 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa higher than a half sack. For the offensive side of the ball, we've got 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy higher than half an interception. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 receiving yards. Chiefs wide receiver MVS Marquez Valdes-Scantling higher than 39.5 rushing receiving for a spicy 2.5x. 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel higher than 13.5 rushing yards. And Chiefs tight end number 2 Noah Gray higher than 2.5 targets. All right, folks. Now we present to you the best time in the show where the light side and the dark side, the offense and the defense come together and join forces for one common goal, and that is to make you some money. So we've got a juicy four play underdog fantasy pick'em here. I will kick us off. Again, I talked about it. Travis Kelce, trust your studs. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 yards here. I think this is a situation where they understand Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have been here. They realize that they trust each other. They have a chemistry unlike something we may have ever seen. I know Brady and Gronk were absolutely phenomenal, but the fact that Mahomes and Kelce are even in that conversation with Patrick Mahomes being only 28 years old is absolutely insane. These two, we've seen it time and time and again. Patrick Mahomes is going to be running around, scrambling the pocket, running from his life. Nick Bosa is going to be bearing down his throat. It's going to be a 3rd down and 8. They're going to need to pick it up. He's going to Travis Kelce. I don't care if there's 3-4 guys on him. He's going to Travis Kelce. I think that he easily pops over this 70 yards. I think he has an absolute day. I'm not one for conspiracies, but what better way to make Taylor Swift happy than to have a monster game on the field and maybe end it with another ring of her own there.
Boo!
Give me Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 yards. What do we have next there, Gary?
Oh,
Not a T Swift fan, I assume.
No. Let's go. Let's stick with that theme though. And 49ers stud Nick Bosa higher than a half a sack. I mean, same kind of logic here. I'm picking the cream of the crop, and the first one's going to be the best guy on this defense. I don't care how you slice it up, and it's under the lights. He's ready to roll.
I love it. Hey, Sin City, man, you big players got to show up.
Yep.
As much as I do like the Chiefs here. We both talked about liking the Chiefs. I think it's foolish to think that Bosa doesn't get home here. He's obviously going to be a huge proponent. They're going to move him around, try to find the best matchup. Maybe that's left guard Allegretti if Joe Tooney's out. Maybe you put him on over Creed Humphrey, you put him on Donovan Smith, someone, they've been penalized a lot. So, Nick Bosa is a guy who, even if he gets held, he's going to fight through it. He's going to go get that sack. So I love that play there. All right. I could not resist throwing one of the spicy plays into this underdog pick'em here. Give me MVS higher than 39.5, rushing receiving yards. I've talked about it. He's the big play threat. He is the guy when the ball is up in the air and we're taking a second for the camera to figure out where is this ball going. Patrick Mahomes just unleashed an absolute missile. There is a good chance it is going to MVS. There's also a good chance this 49ers secondary, especially their safeties, are out of position and not ready for that deep ball. MVS is going to have at least one of these deep shots. That's what I'm betting on. Give me MVS higher than 39.5 rushing receiving yards at a spicy 2.5x. All right, Gary, round us out here. What do we got for the last play?
And in this last situation with Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed Higher at 4.5 total tackles. I mean, now I'm picking on the most consistent guy recently, and actually throughout the season when we were kind of hitting on him. I think it was week 7, week 8. He had some matchups to take advantage of. He's hit. He's not let us down. So I have no problem thinking that after getting 5 combined tackles, and I think it was 5 solos last game, but the last 2 games of the playoffs in situations where it wasn't actually he plays more of a coverage safety and a free safety than he does up in the box. That's Justin Reed. So being in the dome, I think the situation will be that they're going to be, San Fran's going to be forced to throw the ball. I think they're going to be playing from behind. I do not expect 49ers to jump out and dominate. I think that, Mahomes and Travis Kelce is going to control this game, and Taylor Swift will probably pretty happy in the end. So he's a guy they make the adjustments with, and in a game that offers production in that second level. Both of these could be high octane offenses if they want to. It doesn't matter how they use it, running or passing. I have a lot of faith in Sneed getting higher than 4.5 total tackles.
Boom. Love it there. All right, folks. A quick recap here. So we've got Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce higher than 69.5 for receiving yards. We've got 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa higher than half a sack. We've got Chiefs wide receiver MVS, that's Marquez Valdes-Scantling, higher than 39.5 rush and receiving. And Chiefs cornerback / safety / stud L'Jarius Sneed higher than 4.5 total tackles. Put all 4 of those together, and we are smacking a juicy 25x pick'em there over on Underdog Fantasy. Listen, folks, it's been a fun time here. We've been talking the Super Bowl. Yeah, we're talking the Super Bowl in the off week. That's right. That's how much we just absolutely love this game. We hope you enjoyed it with us. A little bit of a funky format here, but don't worry. It's just the appetizer. We are back next week in your ear holes, and we are bringing that absolute heat. We've got one game left, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to make sure we go out with an absolute bang. We appreciate you hanging with us here over with the Underdogs on IDP Plus, guys. What do you got for the people, Gary? Anything before we head on out here?
Just get ready to catch the DFS DraftKings lineups that Dave and Axton are going to be doing here in the second edition. It'll be out probably by Saturday morning. And then, of course, we got the Players Pod where Johnny the Greek has just been kicking some ass. And we're going to do a little bit of fun stuff, price and prop bets. Take a look at a couple of things. I think we might have a special guest. Dave may be joining us. But, we're going to take most of the serious IDP props and stuff like that. We're going to take them more serious next week when we're right before the game, get those a little bit closer to the game type of odds to talk about. So we're going to have fun with some things this week. We're going to expand our horizons and get back to the basics next week. So I hope you guys like, subscribe, and check that out next week.
You heard it here first, folks. Listen, over on IDP, guys, we got you covered. Every angle, every blade of grass in this Super Bowl, we've got you covered. So like Gary said, help us out here. If you've enjoyed the show today, go ahead and give us a like, give us a subscribe. We promise we will not let you down, but it's about that time, folks. The whiskey glass is empty, and that means our time here is done. We've had a blast talking the Super Bowl with us. Make sure you chop it up with us in the comments. Make sure you give Gary a follow over at the IDP Tipster over on the X, or myself at SGPN Football Doc here. As always, we've enjoyed it. We hope that you've had a great time and you're cashing some bets with us. All right, folks, from the Dirty O and IDP Underdogs, we are out of here.
Thank you for watching this IDP Guys video. If you like this content and you want more fantasy football content, click here. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos to help you master your IDP league, click here to subscribe.